It's that time. Welcome to Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm, where today on Friday the 13th, we are ignoring the bad vibes and only bringing the good vibes. I'm Taylor Tannebaum, alongside Alexa Philippou and our friend Ari Chambers. We miss her here over on the East Coast. She's out west in LA for All-Star Weekend. She's set to join us in just a little bit because two's what company, three's a crowd, as they like to say.
So.
We like to have more on this show. But before we push ahead to the weekend's events and, of course, the big game going down in Baton Rouge this weekend, we got to look back at last night. In case you missed it, things got a little nutty around the college basketball world on the ladies' side of things. Number 5 Vanderbilt actually dominated number 4 Texas last night for their 3rd straight ranked win, their 14th straight win at home there in Nashville. The nation's leading scorer, Michaela Blake, scored 34 big points, so they got off to a great start in that game, really never looked back. But on the other side of things, against Texas, their head coach, Vic Schaefer, had some strong words about his team post-game after the 86-70 loss.
You know, you want to ask me, what does it take to win at this level? What's it going to take for my team? You got to have heart. We got no heart. We whine, we complain. You know, my staff and I were just really frustrated that we're coaching that. It's so disappointing. It's probably the softest team I've had in years.
I mean,
I think that was a little harsh.
This is the 4th ranked team in the country. Don't you forget it. But obviously strong words there from a head coach that knows his team well and obviously demands a lot from this team because they can be great.
Yeah, and then obviously this was a very uncharacteristic performance from Texas.
It was.
I think that is fair to say. But Vanderbilt is also very, very good. Probably better than a lot of us thought going into the season. So I think it was a testament in a large part to just how well they're playing right now. I mean, Michaela Blake with yet another 30-point game. Aubrey Galvin is honestly one of the best freshmen in the country. And so I have faith that Texas will turn this around, and then maybe this is just Vic Schaefer's way of motivating his group. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think he would have said this in November when they were, you know, beating a bunch of top 5 teams like back to back. So, you know, the SEC is just tough.
Listen, these coaches are out here calling out their teams publicly these days. It's all about how you respond, and they continue their road trip now. They have Tennessee, then Arkansas too. But man, the scouting report says stop Michaela Blake's, but they could not figure out Texas a way to do it last night. Then there was a top 20 showdown between TCU and Baylor, and TCU pulled off a quote-unquote upset 83-67 behind a career performance from one Olivia Miles. 40 points. She knocked down 10 threes last night. And again, you know, you have Olivia Miles at the top of the scouting report, but when you're hot like she was last night, I don't know there's anything that Baylor could have done.
Well, Nikki Collins said after the game that it was actually part of the scouting report and the game plan to let Olivia Miles shoot, and we know historically, dating back to her time at Notre Dame, she wasn't the strongest three-point shooter.
Right.
I actually looked this up. She scored 18 three-pointers her entire sophomore year at Notre Dame versus 10 last night. So it's a testament to the work that she's put in to get better at that three-point shot, but also maybe Baylor's game plan. We know Olivia Miles is so good at facilitating, but it was a little bit dangerous just to, you know, allow her to go off like that. So a big win for a TCU squad that I think is really needed.
Yes.
A signature win, especially in this Big 12 conference play.
I agree. And look, but I know she's not necessarily known for her three-point shooting, but by the 4th, the 5th, the 6th one, you'd think you'd get out there and get a hand in her face.
Right.
But she kept reeling them off.
23 points for Olivia Miles in the 3rd quarter. That was more than the entire Baylor team.
It's pretty outstanding. And she did, Olivia Miles talked post-game about confidence and how she's feeling more confident than she ever has before now in a TCU uniform. And you saw that on display last night. But down in the Bayou is where our game day crew is hanging out this weekend. Christine Williamson, Janae Agumake, and Andrea Cardi, because there is a huge showdown between number 6 LSU and number 3 South Carolina. We wish that we could be there. We cannot. Ari Chambers, as I noted, is on the West Coast, but she did. There she is. There's our girl. Got a chance earlier this week to talk to Flau'jae Johnson ahead of this huge showdown. And I can promise you no love lost between these two teams. Take a listen.
We got the biggest 4. You already know what it is. Just one of my favorite humans on earth, because how can you not? Flaw, every time I encounter you, you have such a light about you that just makes me want to be better every single day. And this season, I see you doing better for yourself. So what makes you turn up that next notch And how are you able to accomplish the next step every time?
Believing in myself. Honestly, just believing in what I do, believing in me, and living with the result. You know, you got to have the utmost confidence to play this game. Everybody's going to have opinions. Everybody's going to say what they want to say. Woo, bada doop. You got to have fun, and you got to believe in what you do. You know what I'm saying? And you always work. And when I'm working, like, I'm kind of getting into, like, this, they call it the flow state. I call it the floss state. And so when I get in that state, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just in my bag. So that's what I want to reach every time I'm on the court. And, you know, you can't do that without being confident and being yourself. So that's what I try to do every time I step on the court.
I never seen you back down from any opponent. And South Carolina is a great rivalry for LSU. How do you approach this game? Is it any different than any other SEC game?
No, you approach it like any other game because the SEC is a gauntlet. Like, every team is, like, good. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think this year we made history, the most ranked teams ever in the SEC. So I think, you know, you just prepare, and you prepare how you always prepare. Obviously, you prepare different for certain teams because everybody different, but, you know, you just got to pay attention to the small details, but you don't make the game bigger than what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just continue to go out there, play how you play, do what you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be, and the best team gonna win.
Fill in the blank. Flau'jae Johnson is
the greatest rapping hooper of all time.
Hey, now.
The greatest rapping hooper of all time. Well, first of all, I think that we're some greats. Do we have rap names? Do we want to give rap names right now? Or is that not
Sure. I would go with, like, mine could be T-Bomb. Did you?
I like that for
I
you.
have one
You're
for
definitely
you.
T-Breezy.
T-Breezy.
That's even better.
Oh.
Kind of like Chris Breezy, but mine's better. T-Breezy. What about Lil Lex over here? Lil Lex?
I love a Lil Lex moment. That's so cute.
Okay. Okay. What is yours, ma'am?
Can you name me? Taylor, you're on a roll with this.
Come on. You got this.
I don't know, but your tagline can be, always got one in the chamber.
Oh, stop.
I mean,
You did that.
Listen. Ari Ferrari? Okay, that's lame.
These teams, though, Flaw said that she was in a flaw state instead of a flow state.
Love that.
But you better hope she brings that energy tonight. It's two teams that I look at them very differently, right? You have LSU, who's young and spunky. I mean, not saying South Carolina's not young, but LSU to me is electric, and South Carolina to me is like ether. So I'm looking at both teams, and it's like, God, how Flaw ignites everybody. I think Dawn gets her team to ground everybody, and they really just tear people down. So I'm excited about tonight. What about y'all?
I think for me, you have a South Carolina team that's played really well actually since that loss to Oklahoma. They're beating teams by an average of 32 points. So you're seeing them on the rise after that disappointing loss.
Right.
But LSU, they have not beaten South Carolina since Kim Mulkey has gotten to the helm in Baton Rouge. That is actually the only SEC school that Mulkey has not beaten since she arrived at LSU. So I think there's a little bit of
there's a lot of history on the line.
Yeah, and you're
tonight. Sorry, Alexa. There's a little bit of a delay here, but there's a lot of history on the line, right?
Yeah.
Like Dawn's fighting for 500, and Kim is just trying to prove that she can beat South Carolina.
100%.
And for me, look, this is the #1 offense in the country in LSU, 96.6 points per game. It's off the charts. It's about to be a historic number, on the verge of that. And then you have the #1 defense in the SEC, top 5 among major conferences when it comes to South Carolina. So you really do have good on good in this matchup. And if you ask me, I think it's going to come down to the boards because LSU has rebounded 49.1% of its missed shots this season, on pace to be the highest offensive rebound percentage by a major conference team this century. So those second chance points and those second chance attempts have been key for LSU and scoring 96 plus points per game this season. And I think South Carolina can combat that. You do have some size in Medina Ocote. It's going to be on her. And of course, Joyce Edwards and the incredible potential player of the year season that she is having. And it's going to have to be a total team effort. And I think a lot of what lies in this game is going to come down to those second chance points and what can happen on the boards in this basketball game.
I agree. Some of the early losses that we saw for LSU was because of offensive rebounding, just lack of effort there. So the rebounding aspect is really, really heavy right there, Taylor. I love that point. But what I'm trying to figure out is if LSU can bring it offensively through this South Carolina defense. You mentioned it's the #1 offense versus the #1 defense.
Yeah.
And LSU, when I look at that team, I'm wondering the discipline factor going into the game. That's what I'm really honing in on. Yes, boards are a thing, but that falls under the discipline. Defense is discipline, but so is rebounding and just seeing how they can step up in that way.
All right, so in this game, look, the storylines are endless, right? This is the fight in the 2024 SEC tournament that got a ton of players kicked out. You have Malaysia Flau'jae going against her former team. You have both of these coaches going for historic points in their career, 500 for Dawn Staley. Kim Mulkey looking for her first win at LSU against South Carolina, and then South Carolina's 17-game win streak against LSU. There's so much on the line in that basketball game Saturday night down there in the Bayou. All right, how about another ranked showdown in the SEC top 20 between Ole Miss and Kentucky? This is Sunday on SEC Network. And in this matchup, Alexa, look, two different teams in kind of two different places right now since the start of the new year. Kentucky is 6-6 on the season. They've dealt with injuries. They've had their fair share of ups and downs. And Ole Miss has been maybe on a more upward trajectory. They're coming off a dominant win over Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think like for Ole Miss, you want to try and, every win matters as you're trying to get in that conversation for a double bye in the SEC tournament, which is really just right around the corner here. And so for them, they had that disappointing loss to Alabama the other day. They got back on track, but they're also going out against a Kentucky team that they're only 500 in the SEC. I think that's a little bit, obviously they've had, Georgia Amore left, and so they're kind of have a new identity without her there.
Right.
But they're still, a team that we had higher expectations for, especially after some of their early wins in SEC play. One X factor I'm looking at is Asia Boone. Can she hit some shots from three? If she gets going, that really helps their offense have some other options to be able to get some points on the board.
Yeah, and Tiani Key, for sure, for Kentucky. When she was out, this was a completely different basketball team. Now that she's back in the lineup and healthy, I think you're going to see the best of Kentucky. I know Clara Strack last night, Kentucky pulled off a massive win over Texas A&M. I thought it was a feel-good win, especially when you're going into a game against Ole Miss like that. Clara Strack played at a high level. Tony Morgan, by the way, set the new single-season record at Kentucky, actually passing Georgia Amore for assists in a season. So pretty incredible, but this is one, again, I don't know when I became a front court girly, but Cody McMahon on the Ole Miss side of things, and then Clara Strack on the Kentucky side.
That's what I was going to say, Taylor.
Come on, girl. Talk about it.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, where's that back? No, but Cody McMahon has been the perfect fit for this Ole Miss team. She has grown. She actually talked to me the other day about how her journey to recovery from PCOS has really been a factor so she can actually focus on basketball. And we see that she really thrives with this Ole Miss program. So when you have a player like that who's really coming into her own, in a conference that's so competitive, you're going to be fighting for the highest spot that you can so you can get that bye in the conference tournament time. We talk all the time on the ACC side about the double byes and the value of that, but the SEC is so stacked. Currently, I think they have 10 of the top 25. So whenever you can get the win, no matter how tough or how easy it might be for you, this is not going to be easy game for Ole Miss, but this is a game that they are going to want to win so they can position themselves going into the rest of the season.
Every game now matters. We are only a couple of weeks away from conference tournaments.
Terrifying.
I know. And then the NCAA tournament, we blinked and we got here. Sunday on ABC, if we're going to talk about the ACC, it's a rivalry, again, one where there is no love lost on Tobacco Road between number 21, North Carolina, and number 11, Duke. Duke rolls into this one on a 15-game win streak. They are number one in the ACC, have yet to lose in league play. And then here comes Carolina to Cameron. They're on an 8-game win streak themselves, and they just picked up last night a 52-point win over SMU, which is their largest win against an ACC team in program history. So a clash of two of the best teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
I just got to say, I am praying to the basketball gods that we do not get a repeat of the last time these two teams played in the NCAA tournament. It was a 47-38 game. And if you think that was a one-off, they also had a regular season meeting last season that was like 53-46 in OT. In OT. So
OT.
Please let there be some offense.
It's not gonna be that though. No. Duke's finally figured out their offense. They've been high scoring all season. We've been blown away. They got triple digits one time. I said, Duke, you've really figured out how to play both sides of the ball. So I've been really impressed with Duke, and they're sitting at the top of the ACC. Them in Louisville, and so again, I just mentioned it with the SEC. You're gonna be wanting to fight for that double bye. I'm pretty sure they're pretty much secured it. But when you have a Tobacco Road rivalry that means this much between the 919, this is 8 miles apart. It's about who has the blue, who owns the blue, and so it just means more for this matchup. But Alexa, I don't think it's gonna be like last year when it was like, 40-something to 30-something. It's not going to be that. It's not giving that this year. They figured out this offense and how to produce.
Both teams' offense is much more advanced. They're both averaging north of 75 points per game. That was not the case last season. Duke was a little bit above 70 points per game, and Carolina didn't even hit that mark, points per game, last year. So we are in for a much better treat, I would say, than the basketball game that a lot of people would say would set us back a little bit. Really looking forward to this one. And again, the front court in this situation, you have Nyla Harris on the Carolina side of things, and then you have Toby Fournier on the Duke side of things. And that takes us to our next topic of conversation, because the Women's Wooden Award late mid-season top 20 was just released this week. And Toby Fournier is not on that list. And she's in her sophomore season and has taken her game to another level. And I'm not quite sure, you guys, some incredible names on here, but it stood out to me that Fournier was not on a list like this, Alexa.
Yeah, I think she's been such a huge part of the way that Duke has been able to rebound from that 3-6 start where everyone was, throwing up the alarm bells, Duke's in trouble, people were like, Kara Lawson needs to be fired. But Toby Fournier has been a huge reason why that is not the case. They got that huge win last week to help kind of get back into the top 15 conversation. For me, I thought Kiki Rice deserved to be on this list too from UCLA. I mean, UCLA is the #2 team in the country. They're the only team besides UConn to not have lost multiple games this season. Yeah. She does so much for them on both sides of the ball, obviously, but especially offensively. She's averaging 15.4 points per game. 4.6 assists, 6.4 rebounds, and her shooting splits have been really strong this year. When she's playing her best basketball, I think UCLA really takes that, their level to another notch.
Ari, what say you about this list that came out? There are some incredible names and deserving names on this list.
Well, absolutely. I agree with both of you all. Toby Fournier has been doing all the things she needs to do. We've been talking about her for years, and it's just a complete oversight for her not to be included, especially in the position that Duke has been in this season. And Kiki Rice, Corey Close told us at the beginning of the season, we don't pay enough attention to UCLA, and this is a clear indicator that we don't. So I have nothing additive to say. Just put some respect on their names. Even if they're not on the list, they're still delivering for their teams, and they've positioned their teams to be excellent.
Yeah, and you see LSU leads the way with 3 players on this list. It has been a total team effort for them this season. A lot of them ending up on this list. The SEC with 12 of the top 20 late mid-season. Ari, it's time for us to send you off. We love you so much. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making the time.
Have fun in LA.
We miss you. I know, have so much fun this weekend. What an awesome weekend it's going to be. We're looking forward to your content, my friend. All right, as we move on here in this show, it's time for Magic Moments covered by State Farm. And we have so many of these every single week on the women's hardwood. But Alexa, she's back. Angel Reese signs a new deal with Unrivaled. So while she did not start the season playing, she is now joining her old team, the team she won a championship with last year. She won Defensive Player of the Year for Unrivaled last year, and she's back with Rose BC.
Yeah, I think this is such a really exciting moment. We haven't seen Angel Reese play basketball since early September.
Right,
Remember,
it's been forever.
It was a weird end to the season for her with the Chicago Sky, so I think everyone's really excited to see what she's been working on in the offseason, her being healthy, her being able to get back with the Rose, and if she can give them a little bit of a boost as we get really a lot closer to the Unrivaled playoffs here.
Yeah, and this comes on the heels of an injury to Ari McDonald, and as Rose BC is currently sitting 5-6, 5th place in the standings, so they could use a little Angel Reese boost. And here, their response on social media, people are pumped to have Angel back in the fold because she elevates the league, she elevates the game, and she's must-see TV.
Yeah, and Unrivaled this year, I know a lot of people have talked about their ratings. I was actually at the Philly game for whatever it's worth. They had a great crowd there.
Incredible.
So I think the fact that they have a little bit more star power now with Angel back in the mix is only going to kind of build that excitement moving forward when it's really the most important part of the season.
Yeah, it is. Okay, look at this. This is crazy. All I need now is to see Angel Reese make her return, and I might go get me an Unrivaled tattoo. That's how it started on the left side. How it's going now. So this Twitter user followed through on what they said, and there is now an Unrivaled tattoo courtesy of one Angel Reese. And oh, by the way, no coincidence, but her Angel Reese 1 Rose Dust colorway drops today, her Reeboks. So Rose, excited to see her. Who do you think's winning the 1v1 tournament? Not the whole tournament, but the 1v1's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Paige Beckers, Kelsey Mitchell as like one-on-one players.
Oh, the Kelsey Mitchell was mine.
Those are two that I think could really do some damage in this. But if we think about, I know they like reconfigured the format last year. Aaliyah Edwards had that incredible run, so will she be able to kind of repeat? We have no fee this year, obviously, because of injury. So it'll be another interesting case to see whether or not it's a sort of situation that kind of favors, you know, bigger, kind of more versatile players, or if the guards can really make some noise.
Angel will not be competing in that, but she will be with Rose the rest of the way, and we are excited to have one Angel Reese back, the Bayou Barbie. Speaking of the big game this weekend, obviously LSU alum. All right, quick honorable mention when it comes to magic moments covered by State Farm is the fact that NYU, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the Violets won their 82nd consecutive game last week, which set a new D3 record. And now forget the D3 record. They're looking ahead toward the NCAA record, which the first and second streaks belong to UConn. UConn holds number one. They went on a 111-game run from 2014 to 2017. Before that, they had a 90-game winning streak from 2008 to 2010. So they hit the 90 mark, and they will tie UConn for the second longest streak in NCAA history. They're well on their way. How cool is this story, though?
I love it. I feel like I've seen more people, especially this season, talk about NYU because of the streak and everything. And so it's really cool to see some D3 love and some coverage. And I love that we can be able to spotlight them here.
I know. It's really special. So we're going to keep an eye on the Violets as they continue winning. And they're aiming for yet another national championship, too. So it'll be special if they can lock that up and then try to knock down some of these records that UConn holds for the longest streaks to win in NCAA history. All right, it's now time for our weekend forecast. I can tell you the forecast right now in Bristol is actually really nice today.
It is.
It is sunny. The sun's not necessarily working, but at least it's a placebo effect because
we'll
we haven't seen a ton of sun. It's like in the low 40s, I think. So at least it feels like it. So we're going to go through some of the games coming up this weekend, some on Saturday, some Sunday, and give you a little forecast because we are just like moonlighting as meteorologists right now. Let's start with sunny because that's how we're feeling right now in Connecticut. Clear skies ahead with a favorable matchup. The first one we'll talk about are those UConn Huskies, number one in the country, and they're taking on Marquette coming up on Saturday, and it's 42 consecutive wins right now for UConn, and I do not see that streak snapping against Marquette.
Yeah, UConn has not lost a game in over a calendar year.
Yeah.
And they got, you know, Sarah Strong sat out a game, the first of her collegiate career, now's back in the lineup. So she's looking good as she made her return. Then you have one of their freshmen, Blanca Quinones. She's potentially expected back for this Marquette game.
Which is huge.
If not then, maybe the game after. And so they're even better with her back on the floor. So I do think that, you know, it's going to be pretty sunny skies, smooth sailing for UConn as they complete Big East play.
I know you watch a lot of UConn and you cover them very closely. Like, what about this team do you feel like is unique and different maybe from ones in the past, even last year?
Yeah, it's their depth, their ability to have so many people that come off the bench that can really contribute.
Yeah.
Kaylee Heckle coming in, Blanca, as I mentioned before. They have, you know, Sarah Williams that they were able to get from Wisconsin. Obviously, she's a starter, but I feel like they have the depth. They have then also the superstars and Sarah Strong and an AZ Fudd. Their defense has been suffocating. That kind of goes back to their depth too, because they have the players that can, you know, really apply that pressure all game long. So they really, I feel like, have it all.
Yeah.
And I feel like they are still, to me, the clear team to beat as we head to March.
Yeah, me too. Ashlyn Shea KK taking a jump, like just increased roles and really stepping into their own this season. And you can tell the chemistry on this team is so strong. They're winning by an average of 39.8 points per game, which is the number one in scoring margin in the entire country. And they're 23-1 all time against Marquette. Again, I do not see that changing this weekend, but hey, you never know. All right, the other team we're talking about is the other one over here. They're not playing each other. They're just the two teams we're talking about that are sunny. Indiana is at number 2, UCLA. And after their win over Michigan, UCLA just picked that up you know, midweek. That was a huge win for them. They were pushed to the brink. The Wolverines had a chance to hit a 3 at the end of the game that would have sent this thing into overtime. And Coach Corey Close talked about post-game, like this win forced us to grow because it pushed them to a limit at the end of the game, which is what you need in March, because the deeper you get into March, the better the teams you're playing, and you need to be battle tested. And UCLA showed with their backs against the wall that they can push through and pick up a big win on the road against the Wolverines. So now they're taking on Indiana.
Yeah, I think in that game, it got a little hairy at the end for the Bruins, but they did end up holding their composure down the stretch. And that is exactly what you said is going to be what makes a difference in March. I just am so impressed with this Bruins team. I don't think Indiana will necessarily pose them many problems, but right now they've just really breezed through Big Ten play.
I know.
They're really rotation of 6 has been so strong. We've talked about how those can be all, WNBA players next season, but the urgency is now for this team to not just win the Big East regular season, to win the Big Ten regular season.
I know, it's crazy now. You never know.
Yeah.
Honestly,
who
anymore.
knows what conference they'll be in next
None
year,
of us.
right? The Big Ten regular season, the Big Ten tournament,
Yep.
then also to get back to the Final Four and have a different result than what we saw last
And
year.
right now, UCLA does hold the 2-game lead in the Big Ten. And not only did they pick up that Michigan win, they then went and beat Michigan State. And now they are coming back home. So that is something to keep an eye on. That's a road trip. You stay in Michigan for, 5-6 days? Now you're back home in LA. How do you handle Indiana coming to your house on the cusp of a road trip like that? And IU did just give Southern Cal a bit of a hard time on Thursday night. So keep an eye on that one. But I do like UCLA in that basketball game, but you can never sleep when it comes to coming back from a road trip like that. All right, heat wave. These teams are on fire. I wouldn't categorize what we're dealing with in the Northeast as a heat wave, but we'll take it. So these teams are on a heater right now, and you have Maryland and Ohio State going toe-to-toe this weekend. Ohio State has won 4 straight, including at number 24, Washington. They're back home after a West Coast swing. And then you have Maryland, too, after 4 straight losses. They're on a 3-game winning streak. So these are 2 teams that are feeling good with their play right now.
Yeah, an interesting Big Ten matchup. I mean, Ohio State's won 11 of their last 12. So they're really actually having some really good stretches of basketball.
Yeah.
They also beat Maryland earlier this season, so that also is going to make the Terps want to kind of get that get-back game. Maryland, they've had a lot of injuries this year. It's been disappointing because, there's that little sense of maybe they're not quite going to be able to reach that ceiling that there was so much preseason excitement about. But the fact that they've been able to turn things around after that they lost 5 games in a 6-game stretch. They've been able to turn things around a little bit since then.
Yeah.
And they got that big win over Michigan State. So I think that'll help set things up. I would definitely keep an eye on the way that they defend Jelani Cambridge because she had 28 points in that first meeting between these 2 teams. Maryland just allowed Kiyomi McMillan to score, I think, 30 yesterday. So it's always, Maryland teams typically score a lot.
Yes.
Right? It's not really the offense you have to worry about, but that defense, having to make sure that you can contain a player as explosive as
How about the sophomore of Jelani Cambridge? She's been incredible. 22.5 points per game she's averaging, but you mentioned the 28 she had last time out against Maryland. Also had 9 rebounds and 8 assists in that win. But the guard play is elite in this one. Aluchi Okonawa for Maryland, too. She had 27 the last time out when the Terps played the Buckeyes. So keep an eye on that. I will go with the backcourt instead of the front court in that matchup. All right, we got a storm warning brewing for our next meteorological topic of conversation?
Yeah.
Meteorological.
I think you got
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
Teams in trouble, maybe trending in the wrong direction. Oklahoma, Alabama on deck this weekend. Alabama has struggled to find some consistency since mid-January. Probably something to do with the fact that their schedule in the SEC got really real, much like a lot of people's schedule has. And Sunday for Oklahoma, on the other side of things, this will be their 5th-ranked foe in their last 7 games. Again, there are no slouches in the SEC, and you got to step up to the plate every single time out. But these are 2 teams, really more so Alabama, that could use a dub.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are 6-5 in the SEC. Oklahoma, we saw them at their height beat South Carolina, but you also have to take care of business against some of these other, mid-tier more or less, but still pretty good SEC teams like in Alabama. Alabama, we mentioned it earlier in the show, they beat Ole Miss, but the next game, that was Super Bowl Sunday, and so maybe some people missed it.
Right.
They lost to Texas A&M. So I know this is a new look Alabama team. They lost so much talent last year, but if they're kind of, making this kind of their new identity, they still need to kind of be able to make, get some wins against not just like the lower tier teams like the Texas A&M, But, getting a win over Oklahoma would be huge for them as well.
No, it would. And for Oklahoma, as I noted, look, they dropped games to Texas and to Vanderbilt. There's no shame in that. Those are two top 5 teams in the country. But then they barely got past Florida last night. They needed to come from behind victory in order to do so. So this is going to be one of those games where it's challenging you. Hey, are you going to step up to the plate? Can you get out fast against Alabama? And can you potentially pick up a win on the road against a pretty good Crimson Tide basketball team? All right, let's talk about Texas and Tennessee, because that's on deck this weekend too. A lot of orange in this matchup. But for Rocky Top right now, it's kind of feeling like Rocky Road. Like there are some potholes and some trouble navigating right now when it comes to the Volunteers. But before we really talk about them, we need to listen to their head coach, Kim Caldwell, following their 43-point loss. Yes, 43-point loss to South Carolina the other day. Take a listen.
Coach, what were you seeing that made you think that was going to happen? Because it did not look like they ever fully engaged in the game.
I think prep leading up, people not wanting to play, not listening, having to go back to repeating ourselves. I mean, we were late to warm-ups, so things like that just were kind of a slap in the face of this was a game I knew we really needed to win. We talked about that. We talked about it's SEC night. You have to show up every single night and play, and I think their heads got a little bit big. They thought they'd beat them once and that they were going to be able to walk in the gym and beat them again, and they put it right to us. We just had a lot of quit in us tonight, and that's been something that's been consistent with our team is we're not comfortable and things don't go our way, and I have a team that'll just quit on you, and you can't do that in big games. You can't do that anytime in the SEC, but you certainly can't do that at a program like this.
Kim Caldwell was in here earlier. She said she felt like her team had a lot of quit in them today, and obviously after a 43-point loss, it's kind of rough there. And what advice would you give to her?
For me, I probably wouldn't say it publicly. That's one. Two, you just gotta, you gotta get your team to buy in, and sometimes it's tricking them, because it's a game. It's a game that you really have to balance and play with the players, because they know they played ish, right? They know they did. Sometimes you need to bring what good happened.
Okay, so you have a couple of different things working there. You had Kim Caldwell after their loss to Mississippi State. Then you had her again talking about, I have a team that has a lot of quit in them. And we saw that against South Carolina. And then you have Dawn Staley's response, who obviously Hall of Famer, well, one of the GOATs, being able to talk about exactly how she would handle a situation like that. What say you, Alexa?
Yeah, I actually saw Tennessee in person here in Hartford when they played really well in that first half against UConn.
They did.
They actually were leading by 4 at one point before it was tied at halftime, and then they kind of got blown out in the second half. So we've seen those glimpses for Tennessee, but it's about putting together something beyond just a really good first half. And I just think this is actually really interesting time for this matchup to come, because you have Kim Caldwell saying that she has a bunch of quitters on her team, and then you have Vic Schaefer saying he has probably the softest team ever. So it's like the battle of the soft,
Yeah.
Obviously, coaches love to make things way more dramatic than they are. But in all seriousness, I do think it's going to be interesting.
Right.
This is a game that everyone knows is high stakes. You have Texas coming off that disappointing loss.
Right.
Tennessee's still having to prove themselves, even though they just obviously beat Missouri. So I want to see those intangibles and how they kind of play out in a game like this.
Yeah, this is a response game. How are you going to respond to adversity? I did love the way Tennessee responded against Mizzou last night, scoring 90+ and really putting it all out on the floor. And for Texas, I expect them to do what they do with Vic Schaefer calling them out after their loss to Vanderbilt. All right, let's go cloudy, because this is a situation where it's like a 50-50 game. We got 2 on deck for you before we close this thing out. Either team kind of walks away feeling a little gloomy, because it could go either way. If we're going to talk about rivalries, this is one of them. They met earlier in the season, really just 2 weeks ago. We were talking about this game. Last time they met, there was 17 lead changes and 13 ties. Michigan squeaked out the overtime win against Michigan State. This is a toss-up for me, Alexa.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Rivalry game. We saw that it went to OT the last time they played. Big bracketology implications as well, if you're thinking about, both teams wanting to be able to make sure they can host. For me, I just think Michigan's sophomore class is just so impressive.
They're so good.
They're so fun to watch. I love that so far they've stayed together throughout their collegiate careers. Michigan State is a team that can be very balanced as well, so they have different weapons, but I think it's going to be a good one. I think I'd give the edge to Michigan, though.
Yeah, Mila Holloway, especially for Michigan. She had a career high in their win earlier against Michigan State. That was 26 points. And then Jaylen Brown had a career high 21 for Michigan State in that outing. So, you're going to get everybody's best when these two teams go toe-to-toe. But this time it is in Ann Arbor when the last one was in East Lansing. All right, and last but certainly not least, another top 20 showdown, because these are all the elite teams in the country, West Virginia and TCU. And listen, this game is for first place in the Big 12, because right now West Virginia has a half-game lead, but there's TCU coming off the win, the upset win they had over Baylor, coming into this one with a chance to take over the top spot in the Big 12.
And remember, the last time these two teams met, TCU won on a 3-point buzzer beater from Marta Suarez. That was in mid-January. West Virginia has actually won 7 of their last 8, so they're feeling pretty good heading into this. Obviously, TCU just got that huge confidence-instilling win. Olivia Miles might still be making threes.
She might be. We don't know.
And then showing what her range has really developed into. So I think it'll be you always know West Virginia is going to be a really tough defensive team. Taking care of the ball is going to be really paramount.
That's what I have circled. And last time they met, they combined for like 47 turnovers. So. Oof. I don't know if that's going to be the case this time around, but valuing the basketball is definitely key every time you're going up against a West Virginia team. And if Olivia Miles can follow up that performance, I do love when this TCU team can play at the level that they're capable of. They are a really, really hard team to stop. How about Marta Suarez, though? I've enjoyed her transferring from Cal. What
really
a great addition
story
she's been for the Horned Frogs. This is going to be a great weekend of college basketball on the women's side, all highlighted by Game Day down there in Baton Rouge for that game between LSU in South Carolina, because there is so much on the line in that matchup. For Ari, who's somewhere on the West Coast hanging out for All-Star Weekend, for Alexa Philippou, I'm Taylor Tannebaum. Thanks so much for joining us on Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. We'll see you here soon, but for now, enjoy the games this weekend.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.